unsurvivable. That is the exact word officials are using right now, as Hurricane Helene has now grown to an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane, bringing with it potentially historic storm surge levels right now expected at 20 feet. Let's just look at the scene right now. This is a live camera that we have in Matlacha, Florida. Trees right there right now. You've got up to 130 an hour gusts coming through that area on that bridge. We have seen cars coming and going really even in these past few moments, which is pretty stunning. Many bridges have already been closed. This is the Skyway Bridge, as you're looking here, which is now completely submerged. Imagine being in one of those cars. And right now, darkness is descending on the area. More than 200,000 people in the dark without power. Right now, there is a sheriff asking people who do not evacuate to write their name and date of birth on their arm or leg so they can be identified. And now the storm is hitting unprecedented warm waters, and that's what's really acting like this high-octane jet fuel, as they're calling it, with the storm intensifying and speeding up so rapidly. Right now, we do expect 60 million people across 12 U.S. states to feel the effects of Helene over these next hours and days. It is now one of the largest storms to go through the Gulf of Mexico in the last century. This image is that storm from the International Space Station. And of course, the larger the storm, the more catastrophic the damage when you add up the wind and the flooding and the rain. And we do have some new pictures from inside the storm as it's rapidly intensifying. This from one of the Hurricane Hunter aircraft, as you can see in part of the viewfinder there. And the Florida capital, Tallahassee, bracing for what they're calling a dead-on hit. Tallahassee, in fact, and this is an interesting thing, at least in known history, has never faced sustained hurricane force winds. And that, of course, has officials fearing complete destruction in this moment. Thousands of trees could come down, massive power outages, just an absolutely chaotic and horrific scene possible in Tallahassee. And there are new warnings tonight across all of the South. Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, all right now preparing for life-threatening flash floods. In Georgia, people being told to stay off the roads. In Asheville, North Carolina, 100 miles inland, evacuations are already underway. They are being told that they will be seeing one of the most significant weather events to happen in the modern era. And we do have reporters across Florida tonight. Chad Myers also standing by with the latest forecast as the storm is about to, formally hit near Tallahassee. I want to start with Derek Van Dam joining me now, though, from Apalachicola on the Florida Panhandle. And Hurricane Helene, Derek, heading your way, going to be arriving, as I said, the formal arrival soon. What are you seeing? What do you expect?
Well, this area in particular is bracing for what could be the most powerful landfalling hurricane in Big Bend history, and that's really saying something because I often refer to this as the catcher's mitt of hurricanes. If you just look at the topography, this thing is just primed for hurricanes to just move in, and it's so vulnerable as well. I was trying to think of ways to encapsulate for our viewers what we're experiencing here on the ground, the familiar sights, the familiar sounds. We're hearing this kind of a howl, almost a roar. Every once in a while, these whirls of wind come sweeping by, associated with some of the heavier rain bands. We get pelted in the face with some of the stronger gusts in the rain bands that feel like almost like a power washer comes through. I walked out our front door and got instantly bombarded with a gust that almost took me off of my feet. And then, obviously, the flooding waters that are starting to pile up, overtake the sewage systems and the drainage systems here, and then the familiar sights of the rocking trees and even the signs that soon will become the potential for missiles as winds here could top 75 miles per hour quite easily. We have so many threats associated with this storm in Apalachicola, which we're in Franklin County, and you could see most people have heeded the evacuation warnings. We've got empty streets, but still have power for now. We're going to take advantage of that as we can. But we've had spin-up tornadoes that have made their way on shore. We have the storm surge component to this storm that will make landfall just to our east. The catastrophic winds, and hey, Aaron, there are so many trees in and around this part of the Big Bend and into the Florida Panhandle, and with the wind and the saturated ground, these things are going to topple over. It's going to take down power. It's going to land on cars and homes. This is going to be a very difficult night, and it doesn't stop here. We know that these hurricane force winds are going to extend far inland. And that's really our greatest concern, is just how impactful this will be for so many more people than just the coast. We know it's strengthened. We know it continues to deepen. You know, if we just look at some of the drone video that we sent up about an hour ago, there's just this marked difference in the conditions that we experienced only 1 hour ago from our drone operator and photojournalists here to what we're experiencing now. Skies have become dark, the wind has picked up, and the conditions have gone downhill and deteriorated. So we think that will only multiply exponentially as the storm approaches the coastline where we are.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Derek. We're going to be checking in with you, of course, over these next moments when you talk about how quickly things are changing. And also, of course, all of this happening in darkness in the night in terms of the time that the storm is striking. Carlos Suarez is joining me now on the phone. He's been in Gulfport, which is just to southwest of Tampa tonight. And Carlos, everyone should know you've had to move locations because of flooding coming up and a very rapid deterioration that you were witnessing where you were before. So how fast has it changed?
Well, Erin, to kind of give you a sense of exactly where we were in Pinellas County, as you mentioned. That's to the southwest of the Tampa Bay area, in a part that we've been the last couple of years for a couple of other hurricanes, because we knew that area is a low-lying area. We knew in the past 2 hurricanes that we've covered there that was an area that would flood. So when we got there this morning, what was interesting is there was already flooding, right? And, of course, the storm at that time was way off the coast of Florida. It was nowhere near Southwest Florida. But we knew that some of the rain that had fallen overnight, along with some of the high tide, that this was going to be a little bit different than the previous storms that we've covered. And then probably around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as that hurricane got a little bit closer to the north of Southwest Florida from Fort Myers and Naples, and it got just to the southwest of us, you really started to see the strong winds pick up. You started to see the rain fall. And then all of a sudden, and in a matter of just, I'd say maybe an hour or two, the water from the bay, which had been slowly trickling over and breaching the seawall there, it just started to completely flood the area. And we really had to move a few blocks to the north in order for us to be a little bit safer from where we were at the time. And now we've made the decision to go ahead and pull back. We're trying to get somewhere safer within Pinellas County. And that's because several of the bridges that connect Pinellas County to the south in Bradenton and Manatee County, as well as some of the bridges that connect out to the Hillsborough, which is Tampa and the Tampa Bay area, those bridges have closed because the sustained winds at one point or another have reached 60 miles an hour. And so right now we're in the process of just trying to find a safe place where we can join some of the CNN programming. All
right. Please stay safe, and we will be checking in with you, Carlos, as you find another location there, and hopefully are able to circle up with some others that are there. And that just shows exactly the difficulty of covering these storms, to try to bring people exactly what is happening, but also to be able to move yourself. Again, this is a storm that has been labeled unsurvivable. Chad Myers is out front in the CNN Weather Center. And Chad, unsurvivable is the word that we're being told. So when exactly does the storm formally hit as far as you see it? And obviously from what we're seeing on the images, what our reporters are experiencing on the ground, kind of the concept of formally hitting is also, with a storm this large, kind of hard to define.
It is, because it hits in a ramped up kind of way for this water. There's not going to be some 20-foot wave that comes over and, into Steinhatchee. Even though that the numbers say there will be a surge of 15 to 20, that's not how it works. It just goes up 6 inches. And then 10 more minutes, another 6 inches, and it kind of creeps on you. And that's why we have to get our reporters out of there before that creep gets too much. And then you can't move anywhere because you've already fallen back as far as you can. So the winds right now are 130 miles per hour. We know that because the Hurricane Hunter aircraft are flying through it. They're flying through it over waters that are about 85 degrees. The storm is still intensifying. It still could get to 135. It has 6 more hours before landfall. But between now and then, that's when this 6-inch, 1 foot, 2 foot creep is going to be all the way through the Big Bend here. And so, yes, we're not really going to see that big wave of wall of water, but it's going to be an eventual push, and then find it. You know, and Katrina, Bay St. Louis had a storm surge of about 34 to 36 feet. So this happens. This happens when you have a catcher's mitt like this, or Bay St. Louis like this, because there's no place for that water to go. Right? It just has to go inland, and the inland goes up, and so the water goes up. The insurvivable part of it was that, you know, if you're standing on the ground and you're 6 feet tall, and the water is 14 feet over your head. I mean, that's where that word came from, right?
Yes.
So that's just the case. We are seeing so much rainfall. There's rain, like you said, in Asheville, where flood warnings are going on, hundreds of miles away from where the storm will be making landfall, and then we're going to see, because of a front and because of the moisture from Helene, almost 20 inches of rain in that little town. And so the Biltmore Village really is incredible. It's just
something that no place can withstand in such a short period of time.
Joined by the Deputy Director of the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Jamie Rome. Jamie, thanks very much for joining us. As we just heard, Helene is now a Category 4 hurricane. That means winds of at least, 130 miles per hour. How much more do you expect it to strengthen as it makes its way towards Florida and then moves up?
Well, it's still got a few more hours over the incredibly warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, so continued development is possible. You know, we're hoping we can stop this development before it gets any worse, but unfortunately a Category 4 is really alarming for the people near and to the east of where the center makes landfall, because this is an especially storm surge prone region of the country, and that's why we're predicting 15 to 20 feet of storm surge.
Yeah, it's really disturbing and very, very worrisome. What are you watching for ahead for Hurricane Helene as it makes landfall later tonight?
Well, this storm is particularly big, much larger than normal hurricanes, and what that means is it's going to be able to carry its strength, its power, its momentum farther inland. And you can see that behind me. The red here is an area currently under a hurricane warning, which means hurricane force winds are expected. And look how far inland this extends over southern Georgia. It's not unusual. I mean, it's not typical for us to have hurricane force winds go that far inland. And then the blue area is tropical storm warnings. And look how, I mean, that's all the way up into western North Carolina. That's unusual for us to push those warnings that far inland.
Because this hurricane is hundreds of miles wide as it's moving north, and it's a dangerous, not just for Florida, but as you point out, for Georgia and the Carolinas, and maybe even further north as it continues to develop. As you mentioned, this hurricane is being described as extremely dangerous. You've called it an extremely dangerous monster of a storm. What is making it so large and so threatening?
Well, storms, some of the same environmental conditions that help a storm intensify, so relative humidity or moisture and low vertical wind shear, can also help them to expand in size. You can see here this orange area here depicts the overall size of the storm. And I mean, look how large it is. It basically covers the entire state of Florida. And that's what also makes them pack a bigger punch in terms of storm surge and rainfall.
Jamie Rome, thanks very much for joining us. As you mentioned to me when we spoke earlier, whenever we speak, it's never good news, certainly not good news right now. Appreciate it very much. Good luck to you, and thank you to all the men and women who work with you at the National Hurricane Center for all the important work that you're doing.
And let's go now to the mayor of Tallahassee, John Daly. And Mayor, I appreciate your time. Chad was just saying he expects nearly 100% of Tallahassee to lose power, which in and of itself would be a catastrophic, life-threatening event in a storm officials have dubbed unsurvivable. First, they say dead hit on Tallahassee expected in known history. How bad do you think this will be, Mayor?
Well, no doubt. If we have a direct hit with a Category 4 hurricane, it will be the most powerful storm ever to hit the city of Tallahassee in written history. That is undisputable. Now, having said that, though, we have prepared, and we are prepared. For the past week, the city as an institution have been working with the White House, with the governor's office, with the county, with the school board, to make sure that we have the necessary assets here. We have them spread out all over the county. We have our personnel in place as well. We've called in our mutual aid agreements from all over the United States, 9 states, and as far away as Oklahoma, our city and electric utility crews to help us out. So we have tripled our workforce prior to the storm. We expect to increase our workforce to 5 times the normal workforce after the storm recovery. So the residents of Tallahassee have been preparing all week as well. We are a college town. The universities did a great job with evacuating the students. Now's the time to see what Mother Nature is going to bring us.
Mayor, I understand the evacuation order in Leon County was to residents living in mobile and manufactured homes. So it was specifically to them because Tallahassee is 45 to 50 feet above sea level. Obviously, the storm surge that we've been told is 20 feet. Are you confident, you know, in the storm track and in the science behind that decision to only evacuate, you know, by mandate those individuals?
I do. Tallahassee is about 30 miles inland. So while my thoughts and prayers are with our neighboring communities on the coast with the storm surge that they will experience, our greatest concern is obviously the wind effect and also the rain effect. Talking about rain, we are above average with our normal rainfall. The ground is saturated. More rain comes, it's going to loosen the trees. As you know, Tallahassee is internationally known for our beauty and our live oak trees, and that helps bring trees down. But when you have Category 4 sustained winds, yes, you're going to have significant damage to the electrical grid, to structures here in town. And it's important that we speak the truth to the residents. We must take this extremely serious. Now, again, having said that, we are the #1 public utility in the nation. We've called in our friends to help us out.
Yes.
We will be ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work.
All right. Well, Mayor Daley, I appreciate your time, and I'm sure your residents appreciate your attitude about all of this as well. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. And I want to go now straight to St. Mark's, which is just south of Tallahassee. That's where veteran storm chaser Mike Boylan is. He has been in 10 of the biggest named storms and many others. And he runs the popular Mike's Weathers page, which is a hurricane tracking website. So, Mike, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. So the storm here that, as we understand it, from where you're standing, south of Tallahassee, what do you expect to happen there when you hear the mayor talking about, well, they feel like they're a little bit inland and therefore that 20 feet of storm surge doesn't directly come to Tallahassee?
Yeah, I'm in a really beautiful little town here. Talked to a bunch of the locals that live here. It's a really community feeling location, and they're all kind of cautiously scared. Nobody's ever seen this, storm surge prediction in this area. So there's definitely a lot of tension where I'm at, and they're calling for 20 foot of surge, and the storm's strengthening, as you guys have mentioned. So I just can't imagine 20 feet of storm surge, looking at some of these buildings around here, what that could possibly look like.
Mike, are you worried that people who should have left have not?
100%. I was talking to a local sheriff, and they are concerned. There's some locals that are kind of stubborn a little bit, and they haven't evacuated. And I know Taylor County had a pretty bold statement on X I read. So there are concerns with locals that, don't take this serious. I mean, I know living in Florida my whole life, Floridians get these storms. They don't believe them. They think they're going to turn. They think it's hype. But this one's not hype, folks. I mean, we're talking a strengthening system at landfall, and it is huge. I mean, people compared Charlie to Ian, and that was their decision to stay because Charlie was a tiny little storm. This thing is so big. It's going to be pushing so much water. And I think a lot of folks are going to get caught off guard.
Well, I mean, that I think is frightening for anybody listening, given what they've said about it being unsurvivable if you are near that storm surge. I know, Mike, that you've been around Florida today. We've got some of the video that you filmed at Memorial Park. That's in Jacksonville. And you also shared what you saw in Tampa Bay near Safety Harbor. And then you also took pictures of trees already down in Oldsmar, Florida. Now, back to what I mentioned before, you're one of the people who really understands what a storm can be because you've directly been in the path of 10 of the biggest storms. So when you look at what you saw already today, hours before, we're still 7 hours away before what will be called a formal landfall. What does it all signal to you?
Well, the sheer size and the effects outside of that cone. So, a lot of folks still focus on that cone as the impact area. And this is impacting people all the way, Atlanta, Georgia is going to have hurricane force winds. So I think it's just showing you the power of the Gulf of Mexico. We've been talking all season about these water temperatures being very warm, and it's proving a powerful storm is going to have far-reaching effects. And, we don't get a lot of these Cat 4s, and who knows if it's going to go even higher. It's and the size is what scares me. Ian was a 4. We saw what that did. And another thing that I'm concerned about is everybody's so focused on this center line eye, but this system is so big. With Ian, we had hurricane winds 80 miles apart. So there's a lot of folks affected. Even if Tallahassee gets a little, this thing goes a little bit to the east, but as the mayor said, it's something that they've never experienced here. And, I think there are going to be a lot of power problems and trees down. It's going to be a mess.
So what are you seeing right now in terms of the water levels as they are, starting to move?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely seeing waters are up. You can kind of see it. It's creeping up. And that's the problem with surge. It comes in so fast usually with these winds. And that's what people get caught off guard. They're like, oh, it's nothing, and then all of a sudden it comes in sometimes so quick. And then you like little towns like this here in St. Mark's, there's one way in, one way out. And if your one way out is covered with water, you're basically trapped. And that's why it's so important to get the heck out, because there's no other way to go. And if the rainfall, it's another story I'm concerned about, is we've been seeing record rains in Florida, and that's been happening this whole summer. And we're going to get accumulating rains here through the night. They're talking about 20 inches possibly, so that's going to be another story that we're going to see. And Tallahassee is very roly-poly, and there's going to be a lot of flooding on top of trees down. It's not going to be pretty.
Well, it's another 2 feet on top of the 20-foot storm surge that they'll be seeing on the coast. All right, Mike, thank you very much, and we will be coming back to you. I want to go straight now to Michael Yoshida, who is out front in Steinhatchee, Florida. And Michael, what are you seeing right now?
Hey there, and at this point you can see the wind, the rain starting to pick up as Helene makes its way towards Florida. You mentioned we're here in Steinhatchee. For some perspective, we're right on the Steinhatchee River, just beyond the point behind me. That's where you enter the bay and then the Gulf, and that's why for this community and those in Taylor County, there's that concern of that storm surge, that 20-foot potential. And to put some of that in perspective for you, the owner of the marina here, I was speaking with him earlier today, and he said during previous storms, floating docks like this one, when they get that surge, he's seen it raise these docks up with the water well above this metal pole you see here, and then they just start floating away. So that's been the concern all along, those high waters combined with those strong winds bringing down some of the trees we have in this area with those power lines. It's why we've seen the sheriff's office put out those words of a mandatory evacuation over the last few days, and why even earlier today, as you guys have been talking about, they had that message about if you decided to stay, if you didn't evacuate, taking that permanent marker, writing your name, your date of birth, other information on your arm or leg. A very sobering message about just how dangerous this storm can be in this part of Florida when it hits. I
mean, incredibly sobering just to imagine that with a Sharpie. Have you seen, Michael, are people still leaving? Do you have a sense of who is still around? And again, just talking about how power is obviously going to start to be lost, and this is happening as darkness falls. I'm wondering, how visibility is even right now.
Yeah, so we've been here for a couple days now. I can tell you the first day we were talking to people even further inland here in Taylor County who seemed to be getting the message. They had a sense this storm had the potential to be different, even though they had ridden out previous storms. Here along the coast, I can tell you we first arrived, we saw people loading up trailers to take away some of their items to go further inland. Today, not a lot of activity. Honestly, we've seen Florida Highway Patrol, sheriff's deputies making the rounds, continuing to knock on doors of those who may have chosen to stay. But at this hour, especially again, the sun going down, not a lot of people out and about, thankfully. So hopefully most people took the warnings and got out of here.